The Spitfire is an icon of Britain, and in much of the country, local communities try to help fund aircraft for the war effort. Blackpool was no exception, funding Progress 1, 2 and 3 during the war to be based at Blackpool Airport. The Spitfire has been in the Illuminations a few times, but this year was different, with Airfix dropping their branding around the Sculpture of Light and working with Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen to create an iconic reminder of this beautiful aircraft. Hi guys, it's model making time, and we're back with me making my first model, well, since my little break. We'll talk about the little break at some point in another video, but for today we're focusing on this, the Airfix Spitfire for the Blackpool Illuminations, Progress 2. Not only have Airfix worked with Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen to create this beautiful sculpture for the Illuminations, they worked with Visit Blackpool to release this limited edition kit that's £19.99. It's a bit more expensive than the kit it's based on, which is between £10 to £13 depending on where you get it from, but it's a really interesting piece. So let's take a look a bit further. This kit has unique markings to depict Progress 2, FYD W3442. This kit is based on the 2020, I think, starter set. It could be 2021, I wasn't super sure, but 2020, 2021. This kit does come with what we need to, start modelling. It comes with paintbrush, paints, and the model kit itself. And as it's based on the starter set, it's much easier to put together than the regular kit, so it's fantastic for modelers with either less or no experience, and for those who might lack the dexterity to create one of the more complicated kits. I really enjoyed these kits, and I actually built one of these as one of my first returns to model making a few years ago as part of the Best British bundle that Airfix did with the Spitfire and Red Arrow Hawk together. And although I didn't do a video on it, it's on my website, and this is the first time I'm actually making this for a video. I went to Blackpool myself to go and see the sculpture, as you've already seen in this video, and I think it's a beautiful sculpture. It's right at the sort of north end of the Blackpool Illuminations. I walked up with Mr. Modeler and we went and had a look at it together, and it was awesome. There were a couple of the lights out, unfortunately, but that happens with the Illuminations, but it still looks fantastic. And it's really cool that I get to make a kit of this too. This kit was actually supplied by a viewer, Lord Bodford, who sent it via Moz, so thank you so much for sending this in, and it's been really nice to build it. My box is a bit tatty though, because I actually took it with me to get a picture with the sculpture and then forgot, so it is what it is. But I think we should go and have a look inside the box now, so we can see what we're actually getting inside this kit, and then we'll just get straight into the construction. Okay, so this is the Visit Blackpool Illuminations Spitfire Mark V in Progress 2 markings. Got the back of the box which shows you the markings, and it looks really nice. I really like the scheme with the sky-coloured nose as well. I don't know, it's just something about it. When I was a kid, I used to love the multicoloured noses, but this looks really smart. It's a really unique boxing, and I'm really glad that I've got to do this. Inside the box, you've got a standard affair with your brush, the main sprues, paints, and you've got this 10% off thing, which is really nice. Some information about Blackpool Illuminations, and then after that, you have this lovely set of introductory instructions, so things to do before you start. Now, I will admit I didn't wash my parts, I just don't really do that, and I didn't have any pegs to glue things together, but I just sort of did this how I wanted to do, but it's really good for new starters. I kind of knew what I was doing, but this was just sort of a very much a mojo build more than anything. Now, with the instructions, they're very well laid out. I really like how Airfix have progressed their instructions, considering some of their older, even sort of early 2000s instructions. These are really nice. I love the color coding. I love how easy it is to see what you're gluing, what you're painting, what you're doing. It's really nice. I really like how they show you when you should paint things just by doing that in the instructions as well, which is awesome. Quite in short instructions as well, because there's not really a lot to this kit. Now, the molding of this kit, I'm sure it will come as a shock to no one, is beautiful. I really love the stands that come with these sort of starter sets, as you saw with my F-35 kit. And I mean, just look at the wings. They're very simple, but they're very, very nice. The detail on them is just right. And for a new starter, I think everything's just laid out so nicely. There's not really a compromise either in sort of level of detail and making the kit easier. Is it as super detailed as some of the like really advanced kits? Probably not, but for a beginner kit, I would say this is just as on par with some of the more standard kits. Other areas aren't going to be as detailed, like the cockpit, but for the externals, this will look fantastic. Now, this is the main sprue section with the fuselage and sort of the engine cover or cowling and the exhaust port. Now, you can see the exhaust for the engine. They're also integrated into sort of the top of the cowling, which is really cool. It makes it a lot easier. Again, it's just reducing that part count, but the overall quality of this kit is absolutely fantastic. For some reason, I forgot to show you both the transparencies and the decals, but rest assured, they are brilliant. The decals are usual Airfix standard. They're just beautiful. Now we're seeing inside the box. Before we get into the construction, I guess I just want to add a little bit of a disclaimer for myself. This is my first kit back since I've had a lot of changes in my life. I've moved house and I don't have all of my modelling supplies. For example, I don't have any spray varnishes anymore. I used to use Vallejo and some of the Humbrol spray varnishes. I don't have them at the moment, so I've only got Revell's like clear gloss varnish, so that's what we'll be using in this video. And also I am going to be brush painting this. I'm probably not focusing so much on any of the errors that I might make on the kit and try and make it look super perfect, because I'm doing this as sort of a getting my mojo back sort of build. I'm also not using my airbrush because, again, I don't have everything that I need right now. I've got my compressor and I've got a new airbrush to use, but I don't have like all my airbrush cleaner or my airbrush thinner. I think I've lost like my life color medium, so yeah, there's a few things that are unfortunately missing. So we're just going to be doing this as my first kit basically back in after taking 5 months from the hobby, which, as anyone knows, can leave your skills a little worse for wear. So let's get into the construction of this kit. Construction of this kit started by, just removing the main parts from the sprue. Now, this is my first kit back, and I knew I was probably going to make some mistakes, and I'm sad to say that I definitely did. But hey, that's fine. This is a learning to get back into the groove of model making. The parts remove from the sprue really easily, and I'm just using my really basic cutters. I'm using Tamiya extra thin poly cement just because it's what I have on hand at the moment, because this was sent in when I did sort of that video where you guys all sent me some stuff and it was lovely. So I've still got all that glue to use, so I'm using that to put this together, and it went together so easily. It just had a perfect fit. It was awesome. I did leave some of the sort of marks from where I cut it from the sprue. I'll remove those later on. Popping engine cowling on, and we've already got basically a complete fuselage, which is amazing. These kits are so quick to put together. I absolutely love them. We just add a little bit more glue into the seam or the adjoining parts just to make sure it all melds together very nicely and we get a relatively smooth finish. But it still will be visible on the model, so you can see sort of the panel lining. You can see all the little bolts as well that are on the panels. It just looks gorgeous. Removing the wings is the same affair, and this just comes in 2 parts. We also need to add the seat into the middle. This is something a bit different to a more complex kit where you might have sort of a control panel with a decal that goes on top of it, and then a control column as well, and rudder pedals. That's it for the cockpit. It's just the bit that's already inside the fuselage, and then the seat. You do get a pilot, but I opted not to use my pilot because I'm going to have this in a sitting configuration. I might add the pilot at a later date, but just again, for ease of me getting back into model making, I chose not to do it, but I am having the landing gear down on this one. Gluing the wings together is just popping some poly cement on and then putting the top section on. For some reason, I didn't find this to be a super smooth fit. I didn't dry fit though, that's my own fault, so I'm not blaming the kit in any way, shape or form. This is entirely me just sort of cobbering it together. But again, it wasn't too bad. I did somehow break part of the edge of the wing where it adjoins to the fuselage. Again, that is my fault and not the kit's. Now, I painted the inside sort of a sky colour. I was going to originally use just the paints that came with the set, and then I decided actually, why am I limiting myself? I have managed to bring some paints with me to my new place, so I may as well use some of the other ones I have too. But the inside of the cockpit is not going to be super visible, so I wasn't concerned about it looking super neat, just having some colour in there. But once I'd done that, I decided, I don't really like this colour, it doesn't look quite right, so I just went over it in a dark green instead. Again, it's not going to be super visible, so I'm not overly concerned because once the model's all put together, it won't be super clear. We're now going to put some glue onto the wings and where it will join to the fuselage, and then we're popping that on. Now, again, I didn't get a super great fit on this. I haven't sanded down the parts properly, I haven't made sure it is going to fit, I didn't dry fit either. So again, I really want to stress this is not the actual kit's fault, this is entirely my fault, my incompetence, my laziness more than anything. But that's absolutely fine, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect all the time. As long as you're having fun, then that's what model making is all about. Now, I just went in with sort of extra thin cement again. I did pretty much the entire kit with this. There were some sections where I used some thicker glue, which I do have some of, but I don't have a brush with, so I had to use this brush for it. It was very silly. But yeah, just adding it in, making sure it's extra secure. There is some overspill with the paint there, but I'm not too worried about that because we're going to be priming this whole thing with Tamiya fine grey primer before we paint the externals anyway. I just couldn't be bothered to do that for the internals because again, no one's really going to see them, so I didn't really see the point. There were a couple of bits which just felt like they needed a bit of an extra pinch, and that's why I'm holding it a bit longer. Again, I just sort of found that it popped out one side and then would pop in the other, so I just had to keep going back and forth a little bit. Putting the tail together fully now. This again was very easy, just popping them in. This is much easier than it is on a lot of older kits and perhaps from other manufacturers too. It's also a lot harder to snap these compared to some of the ones where you might just have 2 pins that go into the tail. I do really like this style of doing the tail. So yeah, again, props to Airfix for making this kit so easy for beginners, people returning to the hobby like myself, or people who, again, may have less dexterity. I think it's always important we consider them. The stand itself, I just paint in black, as what you tend to see most of it done. I did debate painting the Airfix symbol on like I did on my F35, but I'll be really honest, I couldn't be bothered, and I just thought it would look really nice in black anyway, so I just went for black. Now, it looks really streaky, and that's fine. I am using the black from the actual set itself that came with it, and it's fine. It's a bit of a weird consistency. It doesn't feel quite like it should do. I don't know if some air's got to it, but overall it went on fine. I just had a little bit of extra water to it and it was fine. And I did probably about 4 layers overall, I think, to get a really nice consistent black. Now you can see I've stuck sort of the radiator and some other parts to the bottom of the aircraft. I'm putting the last scoop in at the front there. I forgot to film some of these, so there's 3 parts I've stuck on there. You can see them all on there really nicely. This aircraft is shaping up beautifully, and just look at that. Now we've got the stand, so I just wanted to check that it all fit together nicely. Didn't use any glue at this point, I'm just sort of making sure it all fits, and well, lo and behold, it fits together really easily and it holds the model. I love these stands. I wish Airfix did more of these stands. I mean, imagine having like a Lancaster or a Blenheim or a Wellington with one of these stands. They'd look spectacular, or even the ME 410 that they've just released. Now this sky paint on the bottom, now we've got to the fun section, the painting, is from the set again. I opted to just use this quite thickly because it's again the bottom of the aircraft, and I knew it was probably going to take a few coats, so I just went ham with it really. I paint the bottom first because I always find that's easier. I know some people paint the top first, but I've always gone for the bottom side first most of the time. I am sanding down a bit where I have realised I've got a little bit of a bump, and that's probably from where I've disconnected it from the sprue originally and not realised that it's quite thick still. So I'm just going to sand that down as I go. Again, I know this isn't the right way to do this, but it's my first model back, so I'm vibing it. I'm rolling with it. I'm just making sure it looks nice at the end. So we're just going to go back over with the sky paint and make sure it all looks really smooth and pretty. This paint actually goes on really nicely and doesn't really have much streakiness to it, which surprised me. It seems actually much better than the black paint, which, considering how pale it is, it's quite a surprise. The front end of the aircraft has a section where it sort of joins together, so you can line that out with the pan lines really easily. It makes it quite an easy paint. Now these brushes I'm using are ones that a viewer got me, and in my original video I didn't disclose their name, so I won't again then. I called them the Owl in that video, just again so there's anonymity. But if you're watching this, and I'll send you an email as well, just so you know that I'm still using them. Thank you so much. I absolutely adore these brushes. I think this is the first time I've done a full hand painting with them, and I love them. Now, as you've just seen there, I'm using Life Colours Battle Britain set to do the painting on the actual top surfaces and the camouflage, and I'm just gonna go ahead and sort of mark it out. Now, these are primarily airbrush paints, so they work slightly differently to sort of the normal acrylic paints, at least in my experience, but they still can be brush painted. I found that just doing lots of really thin layers was the key to this, and that's why they're going to look really streaky at first. And I'm not going to show you me doing every layer because that's going to be boring as all hell, but I'm going to go over about, I think, 3-4 times just to get a really sort of solid coat, but a coat that's not so thick that it's going to remove any detail from underneath. Again, that's the key thing with most brush painting, is make sure you're not doing thick layers, you're doing lots of thin layers. And to be honest, that's the same with airbrushing anyway. It's just airbrushing is much easier to do that. You can see the edges of it as well. The edge of the camo pattern that I've sort of lined out is going to look a bit thicker because the paint is thicker there. So we'll consider that as we're going along as well, and make sure that we even it out and get a really nice even coat. Now, this is the second layer going on. You can really see it's making a lot of difference. It's looking a lot more thick and sort of consistent and deeper. It looks much nicer. And so yeah, it's not going to take too long. They dry quite quickly, so by the time you finish doing all the green, the first bit's dry and then you can go over it again. But you can see just how much better it looks after a couple of coats, and you'll see at the very end how much better it looks overall. But once we've done all of the green, obviously we've got these grey sections now. In some camo patterns for the Spitfire, grey and green was a thing, but that's not the case for Progress 2. Progress 2 actually was green and brown, so we need to make sure we're adding on the brown afterwards. So once I'm happy that the green looks relatively solid and probably as good as it's going to get, I can go in with the brown and use the brown to also tidy it up a little bit. The brown is going to be the exact same thing. It's going to be a bit messy when we initially put it on, probably going to look a bit streaky, but once we've got a lot of layers on, it's going to look beautiful. And I mean, you can see one section I've done in the bottom left. It doesn't look super dark at the moment, but trust the process is one of the favourite phrases of any sort of creator, of any sort of art form, and it's definitely the case here when using these paints. Now, I did actually, for once in my life, try and follow the books and get a relatively accurate reflection of Progress 2. I don't normally do this, I normally just paint sort of a similar camo, but in this instance I actually really went for it and made sure it matched up. Didn't use a mask though. If I'd really wanted to go the extra mile I could have, but hey, I didn't. You'll see obviously all the results of the layering the paint at the end of the video. The propeller is simple again, it's just black and then it's got the sky colour on the front. Now I wanted to get this done quickly, I guess, and I was too eager and it meant I mixed up the sky and the black, so I had to go over this again afterwards, but it's fine. Again, I hadn't primed this anyway, so the paint wasn't going to stick on super well, so it needed an initial layer before I could make it look really pristine, so it's not the end of the world. But yeah, if you are doing this is one of the easy ones as well, because you stick the propeller on afterwards. The propeller does move, but I found there was a gap between the fuselage and the prop shaft. Even though I'd sort of stuck in the shaft into the back end, into the stopper as much as I could, it just still seemed to have quite a gap, so I actually opted to just sort of glue mine in place, particularly because it was going to be on the stand anyway, and it's going to be in a cabinet. I wasn't super fussed about it moving anyway. So yeah, you can see now the brown and the green look really nice, and I'm just going and painting the exhausts with a silver. This is, I think, Revell Aqua Colour and silver, just a standard colour, or it might be steel actually, sorry. Once I've done that, I'm going to add some detail onto that afterwards, but again, it's just a relatively simple wash over the top with silver. Now we've got the propeller, and we're just going to pop this onto the end, and it's going to look really pretty. I just love how, I don't know, it's the sky colour on the end, I think it just looks really cute. Yeah, there we go, it's all stuck on and looking lovely. Now, I'm going in with this burn, I think it's burn iron con. This is from, again, a set that, it was either the Owl or Crazy Loach who got me. They both got me quite a lot. I think this is from the Owl actually. And yeah, this burn iron colour I've wanted to use for ages, and I thought, well, this would look really nice on the exhaust, so I didn't want to go too heavy on it. I just wanted to make it look like it's not pristine brand new, so I just sort of daubed it on the edges, and then I dragged my brush across afterwards after it slightly started drying to give it a bit of an effect. I then went in with this Citadel colour Known Oil sort of ink. Again, I don't want it to look super used, I just want some stainage to make it look like it isn't a brand new aircraft. It has been used, it's in combat, or, you know, it's had to go out on patrols. I haven't done any research into Progress 1, 2 and 3 too much. I don't know sort of their combat history. I believe they were in combat in the end. But yeah, I just wanted it to not look like a brand new aircraft off the factory. I tried to do some techniques I haven't done, I guess is what I'm trying to say, so that I can use them in future projects. And I have used oils before, but normally for panel washes. I've not really used them for the smoke as much, and I think this looks nice in the end. Now, what I haven't shown you is I have actually gone through and done a panel wash. I used a mixture of like a sepia from Citadel inks and non-oil, so get sort of a really dark brown. It doesn't show up super well here, but it does on the end result. I have also glossed this model with Raval clear gloss. It's the only gloss I have at the moment, so I've covered the model in that so that the decals go on nicely. Now, these decals are relatively standard. There's nothing super fancy about them, it's just a different scheme. I, however, did manage to screw this up slightly because there are two sort of that go at the front under the glass, and one of them said Progress 2 on it. Unfortunately, when mine set, it set to the side, and I didn't realise when I was glossing it. And then when I tried to correct it, I ripped it slightly, so the P and R off, so I had to paint those on. Now, I was very, I guess, I don't know, nervous, and I couldn't hold my brush super steady, and the P and the R don't look super great. So it doesn't look amazing, but in the name of progress, we persisted, and at least it says progress, it doesn't just say progress anymore, so I guess that's something. But the decals were really nice. I had no difficulty with them at all. You could move them around a lot, they were very strong. I mean, I think if it's Cartograph, isn't it, that Airfix used for all their decals, and I absolutely adored these. They were so easy to use, I love these. And I don't know, in my head I thought maybe for a limited edition kit it's not going to be quite as good, but this was still absolutely spectacular. I adored this kit. Honestly, really respect like how lovely these decals are. It's one of my favourite things about any Airfix kit is, you know, the decals are just going to be on point every single time. The tail sections are going on as well, so the little British flag, and yeah, just look gorgeous. I've not done a Spitfire in I think about a year. I think the last one I did was when I did my testing every paint series, and I mean this one is a much newer kit, and I really enjoy doing it. I definitely want to build another Spitfire again in the future. So I'm just making sure it all fits in nicely. You can see how much I'm moving it around. I'm not particularly being super gentle with it. I'm poking it in. It looks like I'm being harder than I am though. Now here's the Progress 2 markings that I was on about earlier, and we're going to pop these onto the model themselves. They go into the sides underneath the cockpit, and we're just putting on the wording on the side here, so the serial number for the aircraft. Don't actually remember if I recorded putting the Progress 2 bit on. If I remember correctly, it was quite hard to get sort of the full filming on. I'm using a brand new setup, maybe I'll show you guys at some point, but it's relatively steady, but I'm still getting to grips with getting everything showing perfectly and not having it focus on my hands, for example. I always love the sky with the British blue, white and red roundels. There's something about it that just looks beautiful and classic. Now, these ones actually do go on top of some surfaces that are not entirely flat, so I am using Decalfix on all of my decals anyway. I've always used Decalfix just because it was one that was available at a local hobby store, and that pretty much still remains the case today. Goes on really nicely, and when they actually settled, I didn't get any rips or tears, so again, that's testament to the quality of these, because quite often, if you're using decals that are over a couple of surfaces that aren't entirely flat, it can lead to cracking, and I didn't have that at all, which is, again, fantastic. So we've got most of these on there, and there we go, we're putting the Progress 2-bit on. Now, as I say, I did get this on flat in my memory, so I moved it around quite a lot to get it really nicely, and then I put it into dry, and it just dried lopsided. It's really sad, but I probably will end up with another one of these to do at some point. Try and do it with sort of an airbrush, or maybe on a different kit entirely, because I really enjoyed it and I love the markings of this kit. It looks beautiful. I'm just going to cut out the wheels now. I have painted these on the sprue with just black and silver, along with the undercarriage covers, because I am putting the undercarriage down, and the mast as well that goes behind the cockpit. I did actually break my mast, so I glued it back together. It meant I was a bit worried about trying to do anything else with it, so mine didn't fit super flush in, and I just sort of accepted that because I was like, I'm not breaking this again. I have not got time for this at all. So we just went with it. It's absolutely fine. But it doesn't look too much like it's been broken. It was just unfortunate. Again, learning curve after having not done modelling for so long. The wheels I stuck in backwards. Yep. Don't know how I managed to do that. Wasn't paying enough attention, clearly, but luckily, because I am using extra thin poly cement, it's secure, but not too secure that I can't wiggle it out. So I did manage to reverse these afterwards. I don't know how I managed to do this. Like, I guess it is an easy mistake because they do fit in that way, and if you're not paying attention or you've not already done one before, but I don't have that excuse because I have done them before. I was just clearly not paying enough attention. The wheels just fit onto the undercarriage, covers really easily. Again, really simple design. Probably should have stuck them on before I stuck them to the aircraft, though. That would have made it significantly easier. Painting the cockpit, which you can see the glass of this is beautiful and crystal clear. I'm just using a really thin brush and that dark RF green, but unfortunately the camera did stop, so we haven't got all of this footage, but at least for what I did, I'm pretty proud of it, and it looked nice in the end. It was really easy to do, and yeah, just I can't wait for you guys to see the finished result because I'm proud of it. I think I did quite well, especially on the canopy actually. And it just pops on. You don't have to glue it in place. I literally just slid it in, popped it in, and boom. That's it. It just fits in absolutely perfectly. Well, you've seen the construction now. As I say, it's not my best work by any standards of the imagination. I know there were a lot of issues that are mainly from me not really having the tools that I needed, and I have a knife to sort of move out some parts, and using sanding sticks is not something I'm particularly used to. I used to use just actual sandpaper. I know that sounds really dumb, but it seemed to make a bit of a difference to me. So we'll have a look at the actual kit itself. Again, I just want to say, like, the kit not looking 100% isn't Airfix's fault, it's my fault, and just remembering how modelling works, basically. But let's go and have a look at the Blackpool Illuminations Airfix Spitfire popping off. Well, what do you think? I really like this kit. I think it's a really unique example, and it's really cool when I think any manufacturer, whether it's Airfix or anyone else, does sort of these special editions that are focused on a particular subject. Now, I've not built a Spitfire for quite a while. I did a Hurricane video a while ago, and I think this is maybe the first like RF Spitfire I've done on this channel. So it completes my set of doing the Hurricane Lancaster and Spitfire. Now, as for whether you should buy or fly this kit, I think it's a bit of an interesting one. As for the kit itself, it's the standard starter kit. And if you just want to build a Spitfire and you're new to the hobby, then the other one is cheaper, and especially in this day and age, that can make a massive difference. So don't feel like you need to get this kit, because you can still build this kit just with different markings. But if you're really interested in the subject, or you go to the Illuminations and you want to build a replica of it, of one of the Progress aircraft, then this is a really cool example. I'm really glad I got to, and I think £20 is probably about right for the price of this kit. I'm not going to give it a hard buy to absolutely everyone, because I think this is a bit of a special one. It's not a regular kit, it's a limited edition sort of printing, and it's limited to 4,000 pieces. But for those who are really interested in the Spitfire, and particularly those who perhaps live up north or in the Blackpool area, this is going to have a bit more resonance with you, and for that, I think it's probably worth it. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been really fun getting back into model making. I know this video isn't as long form as my usual ones, and I'm trying to vary my format a little bit. That's why we did the Gannet video before. I'm really enjoying being back, and it's so nice to see all your lovely faces, so thanks for coming back as well. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here today, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like the video as well. And let me know in the comment section, would you like to see more of these sort of kits? Anyway, thank you for being here again, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Thank you to all my channel members, and a big thanks goes to the Advanced Kit supporters. That includes Roy Kirpitstein, MJ Banworth, Sprues and Glues, Benjamin Ben, Lorcan Adrian, Serial Chiller, Kaz, Sterry Skyline, Gunnar Chan, Simon Farr, Taggers365, Jeff's Dioramas, Iron Duke, and a big shout out to two of the longest supporters to the channel, Crazy Loacher and Explosive Water. Thank you so much for watching the video today. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to hit subscribe to be kept up to date with new releases. And there's a video there that YouTube has picked out from my catalogue just for you.